Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. So I am actually back in Minnesota, at least for a couple of days. You know, my summer has been crazy. I've literally been all over. Yesterday, what I actually did was I went back to Dallas and closed out the Dallas chapter of my life, meaning I got rid of everything in the apartment I had there. So there was one less place I am now calling home. So my stuff is now scattered between Minnesota, New York, and Puerto Rico. And pretty soon, probably just Puerto Rico. Well, still Minnesota. I always keep my room at my parents' house with clothes and shoes and pretty much anything I need so that when I come back home, I never have to pack. So I'm always going to keep a room at my parents' house in case I ever need to move back in too. You never know. I never count that option out. So yeah, I'm back in Minnesota today and I have one of my best friends with me. Hi, Marwa.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Why has it been 3 years since I've had this podcast and you're just now coming on?
I don't know, girl.
Are you even my friend?
I mean, I listen to all your podcasts.
Yeah, but why are you just now coming on?
I don't know. You've never asked me.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, my bad. Well, I asked you today, so thanks for coming.
Yep.
So Marwa and I go way back to, what, like 8th grade maybe?
7th or 8th.
7th or 8th grade. And then we worked at Dunkin' Donuts together like for part of junior high and all of high school. Mm-hmm. And I think even a portion of college. I worked there. I worked there in college for a little bit.
I thought they closed down at like 18 or something. I can't remember. When we were 18.
I really thought I worked there a portion of college.
I would have.
I've always been a Jamaican. I've always had several jobs at one time because at one point I was working at the dental office, yep, Dunkin' Donuts, and Wet Seal. I had 3 jobs in high school.
Yep.
So if your kids are out there being lazy, I don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we go way, way back. And the thing that I wanted to talk to Marwa about today is sort of dating while Muslim. Because growing up, I had pretty strict parents myself, and I couldn't really date, but it was just because they were strict, not really for any other reason other than like they're Jamaican. So they'd be like, why y'all worry about boy? Go read a book. And it's like, I can only read so many books. There's other things I need in my life other than books. But for you, like it was just strictly sworn off.
Yep.
So you couldn't really
We couldn't even look at a boy. No.
You know, there's a Kanye line where he's like, my daddy said, when you see clothes, close your eyelids. So it's like, when you see boys, close your eyelids.
Yeah. My parents were super strict.
Okay, you're married now, and you guys have been married for what, 5 years? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, congratulations. Thanks. I didn't realize it's been 5.
It's been 5.
How did you go, and how does one in the Muslim culture go from not being able to look at a boy to married? Well, I guess for me, I never really understood the transition of how that happens because marriage and family is really important. Like you are sort of expected in a lot of ways to do that. But how do you get to know somebody if you can't date them? Like if you can't get to know them, how does it work?
It's hard. It is. All throughout high school, I was terrified to look at a guy because my parents put the fear in me. And it wasn't until college where I started thinking, okay, well, I'm like 20 and like back in the day when my parents were growing up, they were getting married around like 18, 19. So I was in college. I was like 20, 21. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like so late to the game.
I remember you saying things like that in college. Marwa and I also went to college together. And yeah, I remember you feeling like, yeah, I have to get married.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I I have to just do this final real quick.
Yeah. Like it was a goal of mine to like get married and have kids real early on, because that's kind of like what they told me was like the right thing to do. And so it was challenging. You know, we're Egyptian. So I originally wanted someone that was Egyptian as well. So they understood the culture, the religion, and everything, and the language. It was slim pickings in Minnesota, I'd say, for finding a well-rounded Egyptian person that I would be compatible with. So all throughout college, you know, I kind of had in my head like, okay, I need to finish college, but I need to find someone to get married to, but I can't date them because my mom and dad would kill me. And if like the rest of the community saw me with some guy, they'd go back and talk about me, and then my reputation was ruined. So it was challenging. There were times where I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to get married, and I'm just going to have my 3 nieces that I had and from my sister, and that was it. But I think as I got older and hung out with more friends and realized marriage isn't always the goal in life, I let some pressure off of me and just kind of lived life until I met my husband.
You didn't get married then until you were like, what, 20?
I was like 28 or 29.
Which is kind of late.
It's like an old maid back in Egypt.
And so was there pressure from your parents and your family?
Oh, for sure.
To get married? Like, what were they saying from then the time you graduated from college at what, 22 till the time you actually got married at 28? Like, were they trying to hook you up or essentially sort of marry you off to people that they knew?
Yep. They would always try to like hook me up with someone, and, oh, this person's son is a doctor and this person's son is an engineer and this person would be great for you. But I don't think my parents, as much as they have like my best interest at heart, I don't know if they know exactly who would have been compatible with me. So I tried talking to someone that my mom tried to hook me up with back in Egypt, and realized real quick that that was not going to work out. Like within the first hour of meeting the guy, I was like, no.
You actually met him in person or a conversation?
I was in Egypt when I met him. Yeah.
What was that like?
Super awkward, because you're like around people and he's sitting there and he's like, oh, so tell me about yourself, like in front of his parents and my parents. And it was super awkward. It was just something that I knew I couldn't do.
So this was like out at a restaurant or at somebody's house?
They came to our house.
And so as you guys are talking.
It was a family friend of my mom's. And so the friend of my mom's brought her son and like their whole family over to our house. So you guys weren't alone as you're talking. Like there's a room full of people. No, you're never alone. There's a show on Hulu called Rami, and I watched the entire thing and I loved it. It's about this Muslim guy. He's in his like mid-20s, I think, and he's just sort of struggling to figure it out because he's grown up in America for the most part, but his family's Egyptian and they still are very traditional and want him to be married and sort of live a traditional life. But he's like, I don't know if I want to do all that, but he tries. And so his mom tries to hook him up with a girl. They're out to dinner together. And then the camera pans out and you see her uncle is sitting there right next to him. And they're like talking, but it's so awkward because it's like you have this whole other person here that's like not supposed to be interacting, but is interacting. And it was really weird. But is that how it actually is where it's like you'll never actually be alone to have a conversation, even in public? So I think now things are changing. But yeah, when I was looking to get married, that's how it was. Like we always had a third person there. There's always a third person. And even when I was in Egypt and I was going with like my cousins and they were trying to hook them up with someone and I'd go, you know, it would be like my cousin, his mom, myself, and then the girl's family, like her parents, brother, sister, whatever she's got. And we would all just be sitting there and they'd get to know each other and it would be really awkward. But I do think that things are shifting and they're changing where it's not as strict anymore. But like where like my family, my mom's side of the family, they're still very like traditional and can't be alone with the opposite sex in the same room or anything. So what are people saying as they're sitting there when these two people are getting to know each other? Are they just silently looking at each other or are they talking? No, they're talking. Or are they assessing? They're like, oh, I didn't like how she said that. She should have described herself a little bit differently. What I would have done. Like, I feel like it's a whole panel of judges. Like I give her a 10 on the way she described herself, but a 2 when she said what she was looking for. No, I think they're actually like trying to get to know each other. and, you know, just asking each other questions and whatever. There will be a time where like everyone will leave the room, I guess, but they're very close. So they're not listening to everything, but they're maybe in like the other room, like the parents are talking to each other or those siblings are talking to each other. So they'll get a little, you know, private time, but it's nothing like, I mean, they're sitting on opposite ends of the room and having a conversation where the parents and the siblings are like right around the corner.
Would you have ever done an arranged marriage if you hadn't met your husband? Like, would you have just let your family just set you up with somebody?
I used to think I would, but now that I'm married, I realized no, I couldn't. Even watching Married at First Sight, I totally believe in like the science behind things. And I think if you are put in a situation where you are like married at first sight and that's how you decide to get married, you can learn to love the person. But I think it would be very challenging to do something like that.
You know, arranged marriages actually have a higher success rate than traditional marriage.
Yep. And I think it's because they're kind of put in a situation and they learn to love each other and they learn to get along with each other. I think nowadays it's all centralized around being in love and how that feels. And that's why a lot of the marriages fail, because people fall out of love. Whereas the arranged marriages, you just learn to love the person. I mean, that's what you know.
Now, do you think that the reason that the success rate of arranged marriages is better is because also people that tend to get arranged marriages are in cultures where like divorce is really looked down upon and it's forbidden in some cultures. Mm-hmm. So it's like, are people sort of forced to stay in it even if it's not good?
I don't know if you're forced to stay in a marriage. For some of the Arab countries, the divorce rates have gone up a little bit. But I don't think you can ever be forced to stay into a marriage. Like my parents, they got divorced and they were married for like 20 some years and then they decided it just wasn't going to work out for them. They were arranged too. The religion will never let you force someone to stay with someone. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
So do you know any couples that are arranged?
That are arranged? I mean, other than like my cousins, other than that,
But do they like it? I mean, I just feel like it's so awkward.
But you have to realize,
I don't know you at all. Like, I don't know anything about you. And now you're my husband and we're supposed to start a life together and raise children and do whatever. But like, I don't know you.
But that's what they know. That's what they grew up with. I grew up in the U.S. That's not how we do things here in the U.S. But like Arab countries, like my in-laws, they met each other at the wedding. And they are like the happiest, cutest couple that I know. And they've been married for 40 years now. And they just learn to get along with each other, learn how to respect each other, learn to love each other and everything. And, you know, knock on wood, they're happily married. But that's just what they knew. That's what they thought was the right thing growing up. Versus here, like I feel like more of the American Muslim women and men out here, that's just not what we grew up with.
Do you think any two people can learn to love each other?
I think it's hard, but I think you can learn to love someone. I think the woman can learn to love the guy more than the guy can learn to love the woman.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. It's actually something your mom had told me like a long time ago when I was looking. She was like, always marry the man that loves you, not the one that you love. Because a woman can learn to love and grow attached versus a man. If he doesn't like you or he doesn't love you right off the bat, it's hard for him to change his mind and like have those feelings grow for you. I really listened to those words.
It's true. And I actually, that's my favorite Sonya Wood quote is marry someone that loves you more than you love them. Yep. You weren't arranged with your husband. You guys just met traditionally.
Yep.
So how was that process with your family?
So with my family, so we met in like January of 13, I think. He's the type who's like, I know what I want and I'm not here to play games, which was great because that's what I wanted and that's how I was. He was a little bit more intense than I was, but I just chalked it up to, okay, he's just more mature and understands exactly what he wants and is just looking for it and wants to like start a life with someone.
Intense in what way?
Intense as in like we met and then he was like, okay, it was just a few months afterwards. It was 8 months afterwards, after we met, that we had the parents meet, which to me was a little bit too soon.
8 months
for the parents to meet
no
each
judgment,
other.
but for Muslim culture, that seems long.
It's long, but it just seemed like it was, and like, keep in mind, like, he didn't live in the same state as me. And so, like, I didn't really get to know him very well, but I just felt like things were going really fast. And when we had talked about it, it was 6 months in. It was like in June. And by the time we figured everything out in logistics, it ended up being in August that his parents came to meet my parents and come to meet me. And originally we had said, okay, they're just going to meet, just, so that everything is out in the open. And let me go back. So he actually met my family, I would say in like April or May. And he talked to my dad in June and asked my dad for my hand. And my dad said, yep, go ahead. She's a great girl. Like, didn't even give him like the, I'm going to kill you if you do something wrong to her. It was like, all right, go ahead.
We need to marry her off. Go ahead and take her.
Go ahead. And then he brought his family to come meet our family. He had already told his parents about me, but like we hadn't communicated or anything. So they came in like August of 13. And when they came, Abrar and I were like, okay, we're just going to have them meet just to get to know each other. We're not going to talk about engagement. We're not going to talk about any of that. And so him and I were aligned with that, but we did not tell that to our parents because I didn't think that either one of our parents were going to push for something. I don't know. I was stupid and naive.
Why wouldn't they?
I was naive.
I'm introducing you to this guy that doesn't even live here.
I just thought we could just have them meet quickly and be done with it. But that's not how it went. They ended up coming in August, met my parents. And it was quickly after dinner. My sister had hosted dinner at her house for all of our families. And we were all just kind of sitting around. And my dad was like, all right, so seems like we all get along. And Marwa likes Abrar likes Marwa. Like, let's just get the show on the road and let's just read the Fatiha, which that's a verse in the Quran that basically says that we are working towards an engagement, like a public engagement. And Abrar we just looked at each other and we're like, okay, let's do it. And we did it.
That day I accidentally got engaged.
But it was the best thing that could have happened. Because then we started working towards an engagement. We got engaged in October.
When you say working towards an engagement, do you just mean dating or like, what do you mean?
Like dating more seriously, I guess. Like our parents know. So if he called, I could just be like, oh, I'm talking to Abrar. Never referred to him as like my boyfriend or anything, but I'm talking to Abrar and it was okay because they knew that we were serious about each other.
Got it.
Yep.
So then when you guys got married and that was August that all that happened. And then you guys got married the following April.
Yep.
Okay. And then how was the wedding?
I was
at the wedding and she had two of them.
Yep. We did have two. And Tanisha was a bridesmaid. We had a Minnesota wedding. And so that was kind of just for like, all of our family and friends here in Minnesota. And then his parents, he's originally from Montreal and they insisted on having a party out in Montreal. And it's actually, so he's originally from Pakistan. And so their culture is a little different than ours. As in like we do like a henna, like the night before party where all the girls get together and they'll put henna on their hands and all that stuff. And then the next day we'll have the wedding. So we skipped the henna part here in Minnesota. And we just did the wedding. And then the following weekend, we were out in Montreal where they had what they call a walima, which is like the day after. It's supposed to happen the day after the wedding. But obviously, because we were in Minnesota, we couldn't do it the day after. So we had it scheduled the following weekend where they had a party just as big as the one in Minnesota.
Personally, I like the Montreal one better.
Everyone says that.
Well, the Minnesota one, no offense. It was just it was a great wedding, but it was very traditional.
Yeah.
And when I say traditional, I mean like American traditional.
Yeah.
The one in Montreal was just, it was more Pakistani. And so it was just different than any wedding I'd been to before. And like, it was just more fun in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, no offense. And the food I think was better at the Pakistani
That's what
wedding
my dad said. My dad was all about the open buffet, whereas ours was like a seated.
Oh yeah. That food was good. Food was good. Were there any difficulties because he is Pakistani and you're Egyptian and that was, something that you had wanted was I want to marry an Egyptian man. So things are the same culturally and all that. So are there a lot of cultural differences?
There's not too many cultural differences. And the nice thing about my husband is he's very laid back. So he kind of adapted some of our cultural stuff. And I adapted some of the Pakistani cultural stuff. So it's worked out. But at first I was a little taken back, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work out. But then I, realized quickly that it's not about like where the person's from, it's who the person is. And Abur is like the best fit for me. So
he really is.
He is.
So
good.
It's been 5 years of marriage now. Mm-hmm. What have you learned so far? Like, what's been hard? What didn't you expect?
Compromising. I'd say that's like the number one thing. It's hard to compromise on things, but I'm learning, and Abur's learning, and Abur actually does a better job at compromising than I do. He's way more laid back than I am.
What are the things you needed to compromise on?
Just little things. It's like how we do things, like even like the cleaning in the house. It's like compromising on how we clean. I like to do things a certain way, and Abur likes to do things his way, but I think my way is better. So, so compromising on all of that. But nothing like, I think before we got married, we had a long talk about how we want to raise kids, how we want like our household to run. And it's been pretty identical to what we had discussed. So we got that out of the way.
Now, your mother lives with you guys. Mm-hmm. How is that for a marriage, a new marriage? Because she's pretty much lived with you guys since you guys have been married.
Yep.
How has that been?
It's been interesting. So she lives with us. She's dependent on me. And I got to say, like, I feel like if I were married to anyone else, I don't know if the marriage would have worked, because Abur is so laid back and kind and understanding of things. That's why it's worked out for us. She tries to stay out of everything, but it's hard when you're living in the same house with someone, like, and she's used to doing things a certain way, and I'm used to doing things a certain way, and he's used to doing things a certain way. So it's just a lot of communication that we need to work on, that we're still working on, and just kind of understanding how we do things. And he's been so open to understanding like the cultural differences between my mom and him. And there's a language barrier. And that I think is like the hardest thing, because the communication, because she doesn't speak that great of English and he doesn't speak any Arabic. So for those two to communicate, there's a lot of miscommunication. So it's always me like stuck in the middle trying to, kind of just interpret for both of them.
Yeah, he's a good man, because when I get married, I mean, I think I'd be like, oh, your mom needs to live like with us. Oh, why don't we purchase that house down the street? And that way she's close, but not in the, like, yeah. Because I'm a big believer in there should only be one king and one queen in a castle. And other than that, there's just too many opinions. There's too many people thinking they're running stuff. And so like, I do commend him for having a good job having the patience.
He does.
Because your mom's also a strong woman.
She's a very
like
strong
your mom's
woman.
not like a quiet, like, let me just sit in the corner type. Like she'll let her opinion be known.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep. And so he does a really good job of trying to keep the peace in the house. That's just all we're trying to do, is keep the peace in the house. So we actually, our house, we built it so she has the main level, and she basically just stays there. And then we stay upstairs, like we have a loft upstairs, and we just finished our basement. So he'll stay downstairs in the basement as well. And that's just kind of his little man cave. So that was our compromise for him to, be happy and still like at ease, is he just has his own space where he can go, and it's soundproof, so he can't hear anything that's happening upstairs. So like if the TV's blasting in Arabic, he won't hear it or anything. So it's worked out perfect.
So you guys have a 3.5-year-old.
Yes.
Amir. How has being a mom changed you?
Oh, in every way. Like I did not think I would be the type of mom that I am today, because my sister has 3 girls and they were always at my house. So I'm like, oh, it's a piece of cake. Like my mom raised them, or they were always over. So I was always around kids. So I was used to it. But when they're your own, it's a whole different it's a whole different game. I thought I would just have him and like my sister is around. So I just like leave him with my sister or leave him with my mom and go out on dates with a brar. But it has not been like that at all. Like I have a really hard time just leaving him, especially when he was a little baby. Now as he's 3.5, he can like fend for himself and, you know, communicate with them and communicate his needs. But it was hard. It's, I don't want to refer to myself as a helicopter mom, but sometimes I kind of feel like that. And I've been told that too, but it's a whole different type of love.
How was it having him changed your marriage?
I think it's changed in the sense where when it was just my husband and I, it was just all about us. We never had to worry about anyone or worry about anything. It was just like waking up, going to work and coming home, doing dinner and all that. Now it's just worrying about another kid. And like, he takes up a lot of our energy. Like by the time we pick him up from daycare, make dinners, we're exhausted. I really don't know how people do it with multiple kids because it takes like the life out of you, I feel like. And he has a pretty demanding job and I have a demanding job, whereas I travel a lot. So it's been difficult, and it took some time to figure out a routine, but I think we finally got it down where, we have this rule where we will never argue in front of our kid because we don't want him to think that it's okay to go around arguing with people. So our communication skills have strengthened since we've had Amir, just because we don't want him to be exposed to all that. He has the rest of his life to be exposed to it. I don't want him to be exposed to it here. But yeah, it's changed.
It scares me when I hear things like our whole life is him and we're tired and we're exhausted. And that really scares me because I don't know how to exactly deal with that. Like, I don't know how I would deal with that if like we just couldn't. And maybe that's the sacrifice of parenting. But the way things are set up with me right now, like me and Chris, is the girls are with us sometimes and sometimes they're with their mom. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Because you get a break.
I like that because it's like, yeah, when they're with us, we're fully devoted and we understand that. And then when they're not, like, obviously still devoted, but not have, like, still getting to do us and be us. Yep. And then she also gets that time. And Chris and I have both commented, like, yeah, co-parenting works better because people get their time.
They do. Yeah.
But when it's just, I want kids of my own as well, but that's going to I'm not going to have somebody that's like, hey, well, you take them this week and I'll take them this week, So I don't know how I'm going to deal with that part exactly, where I sort of don't have my life anymore. Like, I want kids, but I still want my life and my time and my alone time and my time with my partner. And I don't know how people balance that, along with both of you work full time. He's a doctor. You're always traveling. And like you said, like, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And how do you not have that take away from your marriage and your partnership together? Like, just your time together and like your closeness, because just naturally with all that going on, it's hard to be. And that scares me.
I think for us, so we both work full time, but when we're at home, we're focused on each other and on our child. So for instance, when we're eating dinner, we're at the dinner table and usually it's just the three of us. My mom will just be eating like on her own, watching TV or something. But him and I and Amir will be sitting at a dinner table eating, and we won't have any phones out. And we'll just take that time to discuss how our day was or what we have coming up or whatever. And we'll take that time. And it's like about a good hour where we just sit at the dinner table and eat. Afterwards, we'll get ready to get Amir ready for bed and put him to bed. And then once we put him to sleep, he goes to bed around like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Then we have about an hour until we're ready to pass out, where we just sit and talk. And we'll watch some TV. We'll go out for a walk. But then on the weekends, we will sometimes get a babysitter, because I think that's the trick. Like, you always have to remember to focus on yourself. And that's something that we have to keep reminding ourselves to do. So like going on date nights, I think is crucial. And we do that. And like having my mom stay with us, we can leave our son with her for a little bit. So we'll leave him for a couple hours, and we'll just go out to dinner, or we'll go see a play or something. But, and that's just kind of how we do it. And then once a year we go on a trip somewhere warm in the wintertime. So, and we'll be gone for like, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 days or something. So that's how we kind of keep it together.
What I think a lot of parents forget is that if you're not happy and full, like you can't really give all that you need to give to your kid. Because I think they like forget. They're like, well, I do need to put myself on the back burner because it is about my child. And, you know, this child can't fend for themselves, obviously. But they sort of forget about their own needs in the process. And then they're like draining themselves. And if you don't have it to give to you, you really don't have it to give to your kid.
You don't. I came to a realization that you also need your own me time. And so I have implemented like a couple hours every Sunday when he's not working or on call where I just get to myself. And so I will go to the mall. I'll just go walk around by myself. He'll take the baby and go out somewhere, and I'll just have the house to myself. And we just need like those few hours just to ourselves as well, just to relax and recoup and get ready for the next like week. He has Thursdays and I have Sundays. And so Thursdays after work, he comes home, we eat dinner, and then he just goes out and does his thing. He likes to go shopping and find deals, and I'll stay at home with Amir and get him ready for bed. And then Sundays are my days.
I like that important. You guys do that.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. You have to. It's called self-care Sundays for me.
So for somebody that is a newlywed, what advice would you give them 5 years in now?
Enjoy it. Enjoy your time alone. Do everything that you want to travel, go see plays, stay out late. Because once you have a kid, it gets to be a little bit more challenging to be able to do all of that. Unless you have a support system, which luckily we do. We have my mom and we have my sister, and her kids are old enough to be able to babysit as well. But just go out and enjoy your life together as a newlywed and married couple, and get ready for what's ahead.
Nice. Marwa, I'm so proud of you, I have to say, because I do remember being like 20 and you're like, I just really want to get married. I just need to find my husband. Where's my husband? Where's my husband? Yeah. And so, and I was always kind of the opposite. I was like, do I even want to get married? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but I am really happy that you didn't just find a husband, but you truly found somebody that is an amazing match for you. Yeah. You guys like work really, really well together, and you guys understand each other. And Abrar's amazing. So I'm really happy for you, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Marwa's my bestie.
Oh, thanks. You're mine too.
Can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook, Marwa Ali, or I'm on Instagram, which I just joined a little bit ago. So you're
like a peeper, not a speaker on Instagram. Like you look at stuff and you like stuff, but you don't ever post.
I know. I never post anything.
But what's your Instagram anyway?
Marwa.ali379.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Please reach out at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and let me know what you think of today's show. And until next time, wish me love.
Tanisha is awesome.
Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.